it great. Fashion Week is back.
Today, it's a fashion treat, the shoes of the decade. Les sous-titres sont disponibles, il suffit de les activer.
I feel like a sprite, like a cloud.
The best heels since they invented the 8 cm. The best draping since the Renaissance. A fashion bonbon, a Loewe collection that slayed the house down. Loewe does it again.
C'est assez dingue, c'est mon premier show Loewe.
Miaou, Brian Boy and woof, Camille Charrière. Pipow, Tommy Dorfman and Ichon. Yeehaw, the genius Dan Levy from the TV series Schitt's Creek. Miss Fame and Karin Rothfeld, TB Magugu, Lolibaya and Freya Bea Eriksen. This is Loewe by Jonathan Anderson. This is pure fashion, pure mystery, but Jonathan Anderson himself gives us the keys to his creative mind and breaks down the collection.
All the colours are derived from the painting. And I'd never done that before, so I thought we should try.
This is all exclusive and Julien hides backstage and films all the details.
It felt like it was a film. It was the most different show I've seen while being in Paris.
I always feel like I learned something at a Loewe show.
Hello, I'm Luc Prigent and you have to subscribe, yes, subscribe to my channel to see all the hardcore genius fashion and get all the hardcore genius details. Leave a comment, hit the notification bell and binge on all my other fashion videos. Obsessed Loewe. Loewe!
Comfortable, warm, cuddled, and ready for the future.
This is the sound of a fashion obsession, Loewe. It's the first Loewe fashion show since COVID. The LVMH-owned brand will be showing in this wooden space. Kiss Karin Rothfeld and get to your seat. Each guest gets a wooden box. This is the least conceptual decor for a Loewe show.
Bonjour, ça va? Good.
Models will appear from this hall in the parquet en bois. Fun Parisian fact, the structure of this room was built by Gustave Eiffel. No big drama, just bleak wooden floors and walls so you can focus on the models.
I like this idea of something which looked like a void, a kind of like a jagged void. I always knew that the show venue was going to kind of be, the model would come out of the middle of the floor. And I like this idea that the body became like a shadow in a white space, kind of like Irving Penn, like as if it was like a kind of court moment. This idea of reading the look from the head down to the feet up.
The excroissance dresses, yes, it's a fashion erection. Dresses with built-in anatomy anomalies. All designers all crave that at some point we'd grow a third arm, or a more spectacular shoulder, or a surprising hip for more creative cardigans. Jonathan Anderson tells us Loewe is a brand that goes with culture and humor and surprise. There is a long tradition of metallic plastron in fashion, from antiquity to medieval times, to Louis XIV being too much, and of course to Yves Saint Laurent Schiaparelli sculpted breasts. But this is a new way. The brass plates are crafted in France by sculptors using a traditional hammering technique. Of course, it's Loewe and it's the 2020s, so you can also read them as kinks.
If I could pull off those front-to-back trench jackets with the breastplate, I'm here for it.
An iron saddle to let someone sit on you. Some kind of much welcome twisted fantasy.
I was very into this idea of funhouse mirrors. When you look into the mirror and it's like distorted, the image of the building is kind of refracted in it. So it becomes this idea of nearly like the image reflected of the building into the thing like a mirror.
They're silver or gold.
I specifically am loving the metallic plates. I just think it's shiny and opulent, and I love a little bit of wave. A little bit of motion for the body is necessary.
And people can sit on you.
Oh yeah, they can.
I never started off with it wanting it to be surreal, but maybe it sort of got this idea of surrealism. I like this idea of the ready-made, this idea of like the rose, the kind of cheap silk rose, but use it as a cheap silk rose.
Yes, the heel is a rose. The heel is a broken egg. Elle marche sur des œufs. She walks on eggshells.
I want to wear the egg shoes to the market so bad.
You can't do high fashion without breaking some eggs. The heel is a nail polish. The shoe sits on a mauve soap. The heel is a silly birthday candle. Luxury footwear gone surrealist.
There was a new bag, with almost a draping and velvet.
Ah yeah, they're made out of teddy bear fabric. Randomly in a fitting we had a red Steiff bear. He was an incredible blood red, and I just thought this idea of something which was very cozy or kind of like protection, kind of like a tactile object.
The drapes are inspired by this sublime painting from the Italian Renaissance by Jacopo Pontormo, La Deposition, the deposition from the cross, but without a cross in it.
I was looking at a painting that had just been restored by Pontormo, which is the Descent of Christ, a very religious thing, which I've never usually drawn from. And I love this idea of these sort of like swirling iconography, these kind of like draping, swirling motion in something which is hundreds and hundreds of years old. And I'd never done that before, so I thought we should try.
It's going down as much as it's going up. Only one cloud, no landscape. The painting is intense. Angels with red eyes, wearing tights and historically draped. A symphony in blue and pink of sorrow and ecstasy. This yellow draping on a shoulder, chiffonnade un peu partout. Classic, divine, sublime.
All the colors are derived from the painting. Weirdly, it's kind of like a psychedelic painting. When you look at it, you would not believe what period it's painted in.
Jonathan Anderson takes this inspiration and pushes it to the max until it becomes psychedelic. Draping is the very first thing you study as a painter, the very first thing that excites you when you're a designer.
I just thought it was interesting, this idea that you would kind of trap drape in motion and kind of make it feel like it was frozen or it kind of blows out.
To drape is the most magical thing in fashion, this and getting Vogue in the mail. In the collection, draping appears in the most classic, elegant navy blue way, but also in the most surprising way, like here, around the knees, on the calves, les drapés au mollet, elevating trousers, I guess.
There was this multicolored dress that was backless that I thought was so dreamy, and it was so sculptural and emotional.
The pink is the same as the one used by Pontormo in his painting, same blue as in the Deposition. You could see a Powerpuff Girl here. Pontormo meets Hanna-Barbera. Draped shoulders, just like here on the Pontormo picture. She's wearing blue spandex and a bubbled pink scarf. It's a performance, it's a dance, it's dingue. This shoe is called the Flow, made in compostable plastic.
I'm a fan of the sneakers, so the little gum shoes that they did in this shape were really amazing.
The Christmassy dresses in denim, and then they become pure joy. A jolt of colors, a fun moment of sequins, un dérapage de paillettes. They show the leg, there may be actually half a pant. There's ruffle, gold, it's better than 1,000 pink bows. They're holding a torso, a feet, classical sculpture references. Art historians are wearing Loewe.
J'ai trouvé que c'était de l'art, que c'était intense un peu quand même. Ça donne envie de réfléchir, c'est vrai. Je pensais pas dire ça un jour d'un défilé.
In an industry that tends to be quite serious, he always has such a joyful and humorous approach to the clothes, which I think makes it really fun as someone who likes to wear them. This felt like a very special and poignant celebration of the absurdity of art and fashion.
How much have you changed, you think, since the last time I saw you during
I
a
think a
fashion
lot.
show?
I think I've had time to kind of just let go a bit I think it's given me a good year and whatever to kind of reconfigure where the brand should go for the next 5 years. Instead of doing this, you're kind of opening up a different horizon that you can kind of experiment within.
There was an attack with fashion, and it was hitting you with these morphed shapes and structures and reveals, showing parts of the body and hiding parts of the face.
A reset of creativity, allowing oneself to experiment after years of pandemic and lockdowns for a changed world. De la mode pour le monde d'après. Trying to define a new aesthetic, but an acid one. Hyper stylized, not in a minimal way.
C'est allé dans plein d'endroits différents, mais en même temps, je me suis pas sentie perdue, tu vois, je me suis plutôt sentie accompagnée. Very playful, but also had all the little signature lines that you know from like Jonathan's work. And it was nice to see them in person again. En fait, je trouve ça génial qu'un créateur aussi plasticien dans ce qu'il propose soit aussi drôle. Du coup, ça allège aussi le propos, ce que j'aime beaucoup.
I thought the show was incredible. It was so joyful and wonderful, and I think coming out of these past few years that have been so dark and depressing and sobering for so many of us, it was so nice to have been caught in this kind of surreal daydream that he created. It was such a thrill.
Voilà, this was my report about the Loewe Summer 2022 collection. Binge on all my other fashion videos, but surtout, subscribe. You need to subscribe to never miss another fashion masterpiece. Comment about your favorite pink, hit the notification bell, and go drape your curtains. Loewe!